Difficulty in Pokemon games. Extremely important, because realistically there is only so many times one can pelt rocks at defenseless creatures without thinking to themselves, man, I really wish there was some strategy to this. Besides, there's always the aquarium for that. However, there is nuance to this. Difficulty here can present itself in fun and less fun ways. In fun ways where you can build a competent squad that faces progressively tougher and more creative challenges over time. And in less fun ways where Totem Araquanid ambushes you behind a 7-Eleven and breaks both of your ankles. Now, with Pokemon being a series created before 26.3% of the global population was even born, there's enough games to where there's bound to be some trends for what makes difficulty fun, unfun, and so needlessly frustrating that the force of me throwing my DS violates my country's firearm legislation. There's a difference here, but what exactly that difference is, and where it's found, well, that's what I'm more interested in today. Also, please press the funny buttons. I'd really appreciate it. Skirt! Oh, shit. Now, before we get to ye old analyzing here, I need to introduce two very simple concepts to you. Difficulty step-ups and difficulty spiking, both of which broadly can be used to describe a notable increase in resistance the average trainer will give you if you attempt to pour sulfuric acid on their pet ferret. So let's begin with what I consider to be the better of these two first. Difficulty step-ups are where after a certain point the game permanently increases its difficulty. The trainers have larger, more filled out teams, the wild Pokemon get more wild, and the good old days of puny birds and rats are over. Critically, this increase in difficulty occurs gradually and is also permanent. The difficulty step-up typically occurs after you've faced plenty of trainers, collected plenty of experience, and begins being noticeable after defeating a boss trainer or perhaps entering a new area. Think Reversal Mountain from Pokemon Black and White 2. When you move here, the trainers go from looking like this to looking like this. It's a definite step up in difficulty, without being so obstructive that my casual playthrough gets reclassified as a serious mental health episode. And now for the yucky, stinky kind. Spiking. This, as its name suggests, is where without much warning a section of the game floors the accelerator in a school zone, and you're presented with ops infinitely more juiced than anything you've fought before. Now, difficulty spikes entirely depend on the context of where they occur, and the age-old example here is this decorated mega bastard, Miltank from the Gen 2 games. Because contextually, no Pokemon prior to this stage in the game has anything close to Miltank's combination of flinch chances, rollout and attract stats, Lumberry, the ability Scrappy. This arsehole is just better than any Pokemon before it. Now, what makes this a spike as compared to a step up is that the trainers before this clearly skipped Cow Day, and are notably more pathetic, meaning there's not the same sort of cohesive difficulty build-up, while ladder gym leaders and boss trainers aren't nearly as much of a challenge when you face them later.
What?
Moment of silence, please, so I can transition the music track. Right, now that you know these two, one's cool, one's not. To really understand what truly makes Pokemon difficulty good or bad, we have to understand why these two occur separately. What in-game conditions had to be met for a game to step up in difficulty? And conversely, what has to go upsettingly wrong for a spike to rear its angular and unbalanced head? Now, to find this, I challenged myself to assess which Pokemon games were considered broadly the most and least balanced. Now, outside of the Pokemon Colosseum series, games that just regularly indulge in fucking spitting on the main player, from my research, the two examples considered to be the least balanced were the Johto games, either works but we'll go with the remakes for consistency's sake, and the Sinnoh remakes, Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, while the games regarded as probably the most balanced were the Unova sequels and Pokemon Platinum. Also, here's where all the other games are roughly considered in this. Which, when looking at these games, what struck me was honestly overwhelming, because what separated these games wasn't any significant drastic change in in-game mechanics, but one simple word: consistency. The fundamental factor that would mean a game would organically step up in difficulty was simply how consistent it was with its in-game mechanics. Now let me give you a good example of these mechanics. Pokemon Platinum. Look, the gyms are consistently difficult. Second gym, base 505 Roserade. Third gym, Miss Magius knows your home address. Fourth gym, Lucario just straight up shoots you in the lungs. Evil baddies? Yeah, look at Cyrus. That is one beefy nihilist. The rival here has a Heracross and a Snorlax. The Elite Four are actually elite, and Champion Cynthia is pretty much agreed to be the best trainer in the entire darn series. Pokemon Black and White 2, same thing. The gyms are top notch. Ghetsis and Colress absolutely stack up. The Elite Four is maybe some of the best in the series, and look at Iris. That's gorgeous right there, let me tell you what, that's something nice. The difficulty here was consistent. High power fights were the norm, not the exception. Oh, by the way, this does exclude the First Valley Windworks Galactic admin fight, even I'll admit, that per ugly for that point in the game. Yeah, that was a little bit bullshit, I ain't gonna lie. And better yet, we can go even further. These games were also consistent in the EXP they gave you. There was always consistently enough experience to keep up with all these high-level trainers I've been violently glazing. Because if there's not enough premium rare candy broth going around, difficult trainers are going to be way more unbalanced when they inevitably show up. But Platinum and Black 2, they don't have this problem. Their trainers are strong. There's enough of them. Route 221, Iron Island, Old Chateau, Trainer Rematching, Strange House, Abundant Shrine, Castelia Sewers, Ordino Grinding, all of those that I've just mentioned are entirely optional. But they do exist if you're down bad enough on levels for that point in the game. And this very same idea also carried through to Pokemon selection and item selection. Black 2 and Platinum both have expanded multi-region rosters of God's chosen favorites. Look, Black 2 have these. And Platinum have these. And same goes for items. That's a couple of PNGs of items. Look at that, man. Now that I've been yapping about mechanical consistency, let's get back to those examples, shall we? And now here's where inconsistency causes spiking. The Sinnoh remakes. This one's fairly self-explanatory. The first 8 gyms, goo goo gaga, baby shit, wah, I just cost my parents $4,000 drinking drain cleaner. Then the final 5 fights, competitive movesets, items, EVs, IVs. Like, do I even have to go into detail about how that's the exact opposite of consistency? But it's even worse considering the Pokemon selection here is way shoddier than Platinum's, despite this game having an arguably harder final 10%. Johto's even more inconsistent here though, oh my god. Whitney and Miltank, way harder than the first 2 gyms.
Claire?
3 to 6 levels higher than most teams.
Lance?
Go fuck yourself. Kanto's gym leaders are functionally anemic, only for Red to be 28 levels higher. And it's clear why this happens. Weirdly limiting Pokemon selection? Check. Inconsistent trainer levels? Check. Gyms that are sometimes easy, sometimes not? Check. All the Victory Road trainers are on long service leaves. There's nobody here to scale you to the Elite Four level cap. Check. Where are my team options, John? Oh, goddamn, man. Okay, this is already like my 4th retake of this. I really need to wrap this up. Anyway, to get back to the title of this video, difficulty step-ups and difficulty spiking and good and bad are just a fancy way of saying consistent versus inconsistent. Good Pokemon difficulty is consistent Pokemon difficulty that gives the player consistent Pokemon, consistent items to fight consistently high-leveled and consistently difficult opponents. Whereas you can probably guess, bad Pokemon difficulty is where they make you fight a cow and the only good option to fight it is a Machop that can't even fight. Anyway, good is consistent, bad is inconsistent. You probably didn't need an entire video for me to tell you that, but I mean, I hope someone got something out of this. Jesus.
Long term.